Goeiemorgen, good morning, Dumela, guten Morgen, salam alaikum. Today I will show you how to work into the edge of a row. Up to now, we've been working into the top of the row every time, working underneath the top of the rows, but sometimes it is necessary to work into the edge of the row. There are a number of reasons for this. One might be that you want to make a different color border around something. Yes, here at the top you will be working into the stitches, but at the sides you will need to work into the row edges. Another reason may be because you need to neaten up at the edge of a project, especially if there's been a lot of color changes back and front. Then you need to clean up all those yarns going backwards and forwards. Another reason might be that you actually do need a border around something. So the first row where you work into the edges is the basis for the rest of the border that goes around the entire blanket. Another reason why you might want to sew into the edges is if you want to sew two pieces of crochet, or the same piece, this time it's two pieces of crochet. It could also be a piece of crochet that you have folded double and you want to sew that together, still using crochet. Then you will work into the edges of both pieces at the same time, effectively sewing it together by crocheting. When you look at a crochet, this one that was worked in double crochet stitches, there you can see they are the very short stitches that we've made the square with double crochet stitches. They are by far the easiest to work into the row ends. For every row there is like a hole at the end. If you pull it slightly, you can see there is the stitches where the row was worked into the next row. So they will be your one row end. You can identify the next row there, and so working into there will be the next place the crochet hook go. So here will be one stitch, there's the row, and there will be the next stitch. The two sides won't look exactly the same because the one side would be like the front and the one the back. With single crochet, it is usually one stitch per row. Your pattern should say how many stitches to work into row ends, but usually one stitch per row for single crochet. There is the row, and at the end of the row there is the slight gap. Insert the hook into the gap and work whichever stitch your pattern specified into that stitch. Especially when it is just the start of a bigger border, it is usually a UK double crochet or US single crochet. So there is that stitch for this row and then one stitch for the next row. You work the stitch as normal. The only thing that is tricky, or could be tricky, is where to insert the hook for the next stitch. If you can see, there was this row, there is the next row. There is one row of stitches. On the other side of that row of stitches, insert the hook and make the next stitch. There is the stitch we just worked. There is the next row, and there is the natural gap between rows. That is for UK double crochet, US single crochet. When working into the row ends of a UK treble or US double crochet, the stitch is too high, which means usually your pattern may specify differently. There needs to go two stitches into every row. So there is the one row and there is the next row. In order to work two stitches at the end of those two rows, there are different schools of thought on this. Some people use this gap at the edge of the stitch and work both stitches into this gap. Then skip all this yarn going on here, locate the next gap and work both stitches into this gap. Some people prefer to have the stitches spaced out more evenly, and they work one stitch in this gap and the next stitch in this little gap between the rows, like so, just as we did for the double crochet. Let's see, I have just worked a stitch in this gap between the rows. So for the next stitch I insert the hook at the end of the row. Yes, I happen to be sewing two things together, so I do the same on the other side. And work the stitch. That was this row. Now locate the gap between the rows. That was the stitch between the two rows. Next one will go at the end of the row, around the post of that treble that I had there. Work the stitch, then into the gap between the rows, work the next stitch. Usually your pattern should indicate how many stitches to be worked into each row end, but the standard is 1 stitch per row for UK double crochet or US single crochet, and 2 stitches per row end for a UK treble or US double crochet. Most of the time you can choose whether or not you want to work both stitches around the post or go one between, one at the end, one between, one at the end, but occasionally the pattern do specify if it has an impact on the pattern border that you are making. Until next time, have fun crafting and see you later.